Hello everyone, as promised I am back with another lecture, and this time we are going to focus on the differences between a democratic form of government and a republican one. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Shobna Menon. Thank you so much for dropping by. I really appreciate it. Please go ahead and subscribe to my channel by pressing the subscribe button below. Now let's dive straight into the topic, democracy and republic. Unfortunately, in India, a lot of people have a massive misconception about the fact that both these words mean one and the same. They don't think that there is any difference between the two concepts. Of course, there are similarities between the two forms of government, but before we delve into these, let us have a look at democracy. Now, democracy essentially means the rule of the people, and democracy is broadly divided into direct and indirect. What is direct democracy? It essentially means a group of people coming together, assembling at one place and making decisions for the country. Now, is this practically possible in today's age? Of course not. Can you imagine 1.3 billion people of India going to Delhi every day, taking decisions, making laws, implementing executive action? It is impossible. So, what is the other option? What people can do is elect a person, a representative who can make decisions on their behalf. And such a concept is called an indirect democracy. And the concept of an elected representative is one similarity that both democracy and a republican form of government have in common. The second similarity is the principle of accountability. That is, the elected representative is accountable and answerable to the public which has elected him in the first place. Now, please note, a democracy in its purest sense is the rule of the people, or in other words, it is called the rule of the majority. Please note that I am underlining the words rule of majority. Now, let's have a hypothetical situation. If tomorrow there is a democratically elected majority government who passes a law which states that from today the eligibility criteria to become the President of India is that you have to be a male, you have to be a Hindu, you have to be an upper caste, and you have to be from a Hindi speaking background. And since, hypothetically speaking, since most of the people in this country with the majority are from a Hindi speaking state and are Hindus, belong to the upper caste and are dominated by the male population, nobody would have any objection to the said criteria laid out for the election of the president, for the eligibility criteria. Nobody will have any objection. But what about the minority communities? What about the people who are not Hindus, who belong to the religious minorities, who do not come from a Hindi speaking state, that is, they are linguistic minorities, who are women, who do not belong to the upper caste? What about them? Will they never get a chance to once hold the prestigious office of becoming the president? Forget about that. Now imagine the very said eligibility criteria now applicable to all the professions in this country. Imagine the exact same criteria now applying to ownership of property. Imagine this exact criteria now being applied to our personal choices, whether it comes to what we wear, to what we eat. This is obviously very discriminatory in nature, and it exploits and abuses the rights of minorities. And so, if we come back to reality and ask ourselves this question, can the government of India actually do this? Can this hypothetical scenario be actually implemented in the present day and age? Can it? The answer is obviously a profound no. The government of India cannot put such discriminatory discriminatory criteria for electing a position or any other aspect of life for that matter of an individual. The question is why? Why can't the government establish majority will on minorities? Well, the answer is because the government, especially government of India, is subjected to the rule of law. And that is exactly what a republic is. A republic is a form of government which is subjected to the rule of law. In polity, rule of law essentially states that every person, irrespective of race, caste, creed, gender, religion, or status, is subjected to equal treatment of law. Everybody is treated equally before the eyes of law. Whether it is paying a small parking fine or being subjected to a life imprisonment sentence, the punishment will be the same for everyone as per the offence committed. There is no discrimination that will happen in any of the following groups. It does not matter whether you are from the majority or not. So, this is exactly the republican feature that we see in a government, which we do not see in a democratic government. Now, India is actually called a democratic republic. By the sound of it, it actually sounds like an oxymoron. Oxymoron are basically two words of opposite nature put together. And so, by these differences, which I can now mention, democracy is a rule of majority, while republic form of government is a rule of law. A democracy does not offer any safeguards to minorities, while a republican form of government actually offers protection to minorities. A democracy is concerned only with popular will, that is what the majority says goes. But a republican form of government is concerned with the rights of every individual. A democracy has a source of power coming from people with unknown motives. We do not know what the interest of these peoples are. We do not know what sort of a state do they wish to establish. Whereas in a republican form of government, the source of power comes from a document called the Constitution. The Constitution, like I mentioned in my previous lecture, is basically the law of the land, and its underlying principle is the principle of constitutionalism, which clearly tells the government what it can do and what it cannot do. The essence of the principle of constitutionalism is to protect the rights of the individual and protect the individual from the abuse of the government, right? Another basic feature that we see is that all the powers of the government in a democracy is vested in one body, whereas the powers are actually shared in a republican form of government across two spectrums. Power is shared horizontally and power is shared vertically. Horizontally, power is shared between the executive, the legislature and the judiciary. The legislature is the body that makes laws, the executive is the body that executes or implements those said laws, and the judiciary is the body that validates those laws as per the constitution. The vertical power sharing is divided between center, state, district and in our case the panchayats as well. So, coming back to the topic, India is called a democratic republic. So, after seeing these differences, one may assume that it is an oxymoron. How can India be a democracy as well as a republic? Well, interestingly, these two forms of exercises happen at two different points of time. India is exercising its democratic power when it is participating in Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha elections. It is exercising its exclusive choice of selecting a representative to make decisions on their behalf. In that sense, India is a democracy. But once the government is elected, once the government is formed, then the republican feature kicks in and it tells the elected representative how much time do you have to be in power, which is essentially 5 years, and it also tells the elected representative how do you have to govern these people, right? So, In this way, India is a democratic republic. So this sounds very ideal, but is a republican form of government foolproof? Now in India, you have come across many instances where atrocities have been committed against minorities. So is India truly a republic? Is a republican government ultimately foolproof? Unfortunately, the answer is no. Why? Why? What are the flaws in the republican form of government is essentially what I'm telling. The first flaw is that the elected representatives belong to political parties. Eventually, during the course of time, these elected representatives do not hold themselves accountable to the public. They actually hold themselves accountable to the political parties through whose ticket they have entered the system, right? And so what we see is that the rule of law is eventually replaced by the rule of political party. That too, the rule of the political party which has a majority. So what we are seeing is more or less the republican form of government slowly turns into a democratic one, because the majority the political party will have the majority will, and so this is expressed in the democracy. So unfortunately, more or less at the end of the day, the governance is that of the is done by the political party and not by the government, which should stand true to the ideals of the constitution, right? The second flaw of a republican form of government is that it is vague. If you actually analyze the nature of a republican form of government, you cannot truly restrict it to just one type of government. Now let me give you an example. For example, in the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister is elected democratically and the rule of law is very strong in this particular country. But can we call it a republic? Even though rule of law is functioning in UK, we cannot call it a republic because the head of state is not elected. The head of state of UK is the Queen. So that makes the country a monarchy. But please note that the United Kingdom has not called the Queen an absolute monarch. It is calling the Queen a constitutional monarch, thereby implicitly stating that there is an element of republicanism in the system. Second example of the vagueness. The country, China, calls itself the People's Republic of China. But is it truly a republic? No, because the head of state, the president of China, is not elected, because we are very well aware of the fact that China has a single party system. And recently, the president of China announced himself to be the president for life. An essential feature of republicanism is that there is limits to such holding of office. So even though it calls itself a republic, but it is not essentially a republic. If anything, it is an autocracy or a dictatorship. So this is the second flaw, but please note that your understanding of the differences between a democratic form of government and a republican form of government should not be confused with anything else. These differences remain. You should get clarity on these subjects, and if you have liked this video, please go ahead, share, subscribe, comment and like it. And if you have, please let me know in the comment section what you think about the video. Thank you so much for dropping by. I really appreciate it. Good day.